From the sputtering gasoline-chugging engines of the early 20th century to the near-silent, sleek electric vehicles of today, the automobile has experienced a century-long metamorphosis that has reshaped not only transportation, but also society itself. In the early days, cars were mechanical marvels, hand-cranked, unreliable, and accessible only to the wealthy few. These rudimentary machines laid the foundation for an industry that would soon become a global force. As decades passed, innovation surged, bringing advances like the electric starter, automatic transmission, and aerodynamic design. Yet it wasn't just engineering brilliance that fueled this transformation. Necessity played a key role. World wars demanded durable military vehicles. Oil crises highlighted the need for fuel efficiency, and growing environmental awareness pushed for cleaner, greener alternatives. In parallel, consumer expectations evolved dramatically. What began as a luxury item slowly became a household necessity, and later, a symbol of personal freedom and technological sophistication. Safety, comfort, connectivity, and sustainability became new benchmarks for success in the automotive world. Enter the electric vehicle revolution, driven by breakthroughs in battery technology, climate change urgency, and the rise of eco-conscious consumers. EVs transitioned from niche experiments to mainstream contenders. Today, many modern vehicles are not only electric, but also smart, integrated with artificial intelligence, advanced driver assistance systems, and connected ecosystems that anticipate user needs and interact seamlessly with the world around them. This remarkable journey from hand-cranked novelties to intelligent, sustainable machines is a testament to human ingenuity and our ability to adapt, innovate, and drive toward a better future. 1905 to 1920, the birth of the automobile era. The dawn of the 20th century began a transformative chapter in human mobility. By 1905, automobiles were still rare sights on the road, symbols of innovation, wealth, and curiosity. These early vehicles were largely handmade, expensive, and experimental, powered by a mix of steam, electricity, and gasoline, as inventors competed to define the future of transportation. Cities buzzed with the excitement of this new technology, even as horses still dominated the streets. Key milestones: 1908, the Ford model. Arguably the most significant breakthrough of this era came with Henry Ford's introduction of the Model T. Priced affordably and built for durability, it quickly became the car of the people. But the real innovation arrived in 1913 when Ford unveiled the moving assembly line, revolutionizing not just car manufacturing, but mass production across industries. This single innovation slashed production time and costs, ushering in an age where cars were no longer a luxury for the elite, but an attainable asset for the average American. Electric vehicles make an early debut. Surprisingly to many today, electric vehicles, EVs, were quite competitive in the early 1900s. Especially favored in urban areas, early EVs were clean, quiet, and easy to drive, requiring no manual gear changes or crank starts. However, limitations in battery technology, high production costs, and the rapid expansion of gasoline infrastructure gradually pushed them out of the mainstream by the 1920s. Technology snapshot: top speeds rarely exceed 40 miles per hour, making them suitable mainly for short-distance travel. Materials included wooden frames, minimal metalwork, and almost no standardization. Each vehicle was a custom build. Crank starters required physical effort and sometimes injury to get the engine running. Lighting was rudimentary, often provided by kerosene lamps or early electric bulbs. Braking and suspension systems were primitive, and safety features were virtually non-existent. Despite their flaws, these early automobiles laid the foundation for a global industry. This was an age of experimentation, where innovation outpaced regulation, and each new model pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The stage was set for the automobile to evolve from a novel invention into a defining force of the 20th century. 1920 to 1945, gasoline takes over. The years between the two world wars saw the automobile shift from novelty to necessity. As the world entered the Roaring '20s, the stage was set for the internal combustion engine ICE to become the dominant force in automotive design. With gasoline becoming more affordable and widely available, thanks to major oil discoveries and expanding refineries. ICE-powered vehicles quickly left steam and electric competitors in the dust. This era was defined by rapid industrial growth, infrastructure expansion, and global conflict, all of which shaped the trajectory of the modern car. Why EVs faded into the background? Oil abundance. Large petroleum reserves discovered in places like Texas made gasoline cheap and accessible, reducing the economic incentive to pursue alternatives. Better engine tech. Advances in ICE efficiency, power, and reliability made gasoline vehicles more attractive to both consumers and manufacturers. The electric starter. One of the most crucial innovations, the electric starter introduced in 1912 by Cadillac, eliminated the need for hand cranks, leveling the playing field in ease of use between gas and electric cars. Infrastructure gap. Charging stations were practically non-existent, and battery technology remained too limited for long-distance use or affordability, making EVs less viable outside urban centers. Iconic cars of the era. Chevrolet Suburban, 1935. Considered one of the first sport utility vehicles SUVs, the Suburban blended utility and passenger comfort, setting a precedent for a vehicle class that would explode decades later. Volkswagen Beetle, 1938. Commissioned by the German government and designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the people's car Volkswagen was affordable, durable, and efficient. Although its mass production was delayed by World War II, the Beetle would go on to become one of the best-selling cars in history. Technology snapshot. Top speeds approached 60 miles per hour in some models. All steel bodies began replacing wooden frames, improving safety and durability. Manual transmissions became standardized, while brakes and suspensions grew more reliable. Dashboard gauges, windshield wipers, and even primitive heaters started appearing. Early nods to the comfort and convenience features that modern drivers take for granted. As the world plunged into World War II, the focus of automobile manufacturing shifted from civilian transportation to military production. Tanks, jeeps, and armored vehicles became the new priority, but the war also accelerated technological innovation, many of which would trickle down into post-war car design. 1945 to 1970, the golden age of cars. In the decades following World War II, the automobile experienced an unprecedented boom in both popularity and influence, particularly in the United States. With the return of soldiers, a surging economy, and a rapidly expanding middle class, the post-war period ushered in what many regard as the golden age of the automobile. During this time, cars evolved from mere modes of transportation into powerful cultural symbols of freedom, prosperity, and personal identity. Cultural shift, a society on the move. The post-war economic boom fueled a sweeping transformation in the way Americans lived, worked, and traveled. Suburban expansion. Veterans returning home from the war were eager to start families, and the government supported home ownership through initiatives like the GI Bill. This led to a mass migration from crowded cities to newly built suburbs. With suburbs often built without robust public transit, owning a car became not just desirable, but essential. Daily commuting by automobile became the new norm. Birth of car culture. As people spent more time in their vehicles, cars became central to the American lifestyle. Drive-in movie theaters flourished across the country, offering a novel form of entertainment where families and teens could watch films without ever leaving their cars. Similarly, drive-in diners and roadside motels popped up along expanding highway systems, reinforcing the culture of convenience and mobility. Status symbol and personal expression. Cars began to symbolize more than transportation. They were reflections of personal taste, socio-economic status, and individuality. Manufacturers leaned into this, offering annual model updates, more colors, and stylized chrome-heavy designs that made each car stand out. Pop culture. Icon, from James Dean's rebellious image behind the wheel to songs like Little Deuce Coupe, cars became ingrained in American media, music, and identity. The automobile was no longer just a product, it was part of the American dream. Technological innovations, comfort, convenience, and performance. Automotive engineering made major strides during this era, focusing not only on performance, but also on enhancing the comfort and ease of the driving experience. Automatic transmissions. Although introduced earlier, automatic transmissions became increasingly common during this period, allowing drivers to operate vehicles without needing to manually shift gears. This innovation made driving more accessible, especially to those unfamiliar with manual transmissions. Power steering and power brakes. These features greatly reduced the physical effort needed to steer or stop a vehicle, which was particularly important as cars became larger and heavier. Their widespread adoption made driving safer and more comfortable, especially at low speeds and in urban environments. Air conditioning. Once a luxury reserved for high-end models, automotive air conditioning slowly became more available to the middle class during the late 1950s and 1960s. It transformed summer driving and added a new level of luxury to road travel. Styling and engineering integration. Design became a major focus, with automakers crafting bold fins, wraparound windshields, and extravagant grills. Behind the flash, manufacturers also introduced more powerful engines, including V8s, to satisfy consumers' growing appetite for speed and performance. Highway infrastructure. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 spearheaded the creation of the interstate highway system, facilitating long-distance travel and further embedding the car in the fabric of American life. Emerging issues. Cracks in the chrome. While the 1945 to 1970 period was characterized by prosperity and innovation, it also sowed the seeds of future challenges. Environmental impact. The emphasis on power and size came at a cost. Fuel consumption soared, and vehicles produced large amounts of pollutants, with smog and air quality becoming noticeable issues in major cities by the late 1960s. Urban congestion. As more people relied on personal vehicles, traffic congestion became a growing problem, particularly in city centers. Urban planning often prioritized cars over pedestrians and public transit, leading to sprawling, car-dependent environments. Safety concerns. While vehicles became more comfortable, they were not necessarily safer. The era's cars lacked basic modern safety features like seatbelts, which weren't widely mandated until later, crumple zones, or airbags. As car ownership increased, so did road accidents and fatalities, leading to the beginnings of consumer advocacy around vehicle safety. This era set the tone for much of the modern relationship between society and the automobile. It was a time of excess, freedom, optimism, and ambition, but also the beginning of deeper questions about sustainability, public health, and urban design that would become more pressing in the decades to follow. 1970 to 1990. Crises and regulation sparked change. Detailed analysis. The 2 decades from 1970 to 1990 were a turning point in the global automotive industry. A combination of geopolitical shocks, regulatory reforms, and technological advancements forced automakers to rethink long-standing priorities. This era laid the groundwork for many of the systems and standards we now take for granted. Global oil crises and economic shock. The 1973 oil crisis, triggered by the OPEC oil embargo, resulted in soaring fuel prices and widespread fuel shortages across Western nations. A second oil shock in 1979 following the Iranian Revolution compounded the issue. These events exposed the vulnerability of countries heavily reliant on gasoline-powered vehicles with poor fuel economy, particularly the US, where large gas guzzlers had long been the norm. Key outcomes. Shift in consumer demand. Consumers began prioritizing fuel efficiency over power and size. This opened the door for Japanese manufacturers like Toyota, Honda, and Datsun, later Nissan, who specialized in smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles. Long-term industry realignment. These crises permanently altered production goals, marketing strategies, and design philosophies in global automotive markets. Environmental regulation as a technological catalyst. Growing awareness of environmental degradation, urban smog, and health risks led to a wave of environmental legislation, most notably in the United States. The U.S. Clean Air Act of 1970 was a landmark moment. It established strict emission standards for automobiles, forcing manufacturers to innovate or face penalties. Technological response. Introduction of the catalytic converter in 1975. This device became central in reducing tailpipe emissions by converting harmful gases like carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides into less toxic substances. Lead-free gasoline. Required for catalytic converters, its adoption helped phase out the use of tetraethyl lead, a neurotoxic fuel additive. Innovation and safety in focus. The 1970s and 1980s also saw important advancements in vehicle safety and powertrain technology. Safety features. Seat belts became mandatory in many countries. Lap belts gave way to three-point harnesses. Electronics and engine control. Fuel injection systems. In the 1980s, electronic fuel injection began replacing carburetors, allowing for better fuel economy, reduced emissions, and smoother engine operation. Engine control units. ECUs, primitive computers, started managing key engine parameters like timing, fuel mixture, and idle speed, marking the beginning of the computerization of the automobile. Early hybrid and alternative fuel experiments. Although mass-market hybrids like the Toyota Prius were still decades away, the 1970s oil crisis prompted early experimentation with alternative powertrains. Research began into hybrid electric drive concepts, though battery technology was still in its infancy. Electric vehicle prototypes were explored, especially during fuel scares, but they lacked the range and practicality to gain traction. Summary takeaways. This period was defined by external shocks, oil crises, and internal responses regulation, innovation, and safety evolution. Together, these changes reshaped consumer expectations. This gave rise to Japan as a dominant automotive force, began the shift from mechanical to electronic vehicle systems, created a foundation for sustainable and safer mobility in future decades. 1990 to 2010, the hybrid revolution and resurgence of EV interest, detailed analysis. As the 20th century closed and a new millennium began, growing environmental awareness, rising fuel prices, and advances in battery technology converged to create a new era of automotive innovation. The industry saw a reawakening of interest in electric vehicles, EVs, while hybrid powertrains began to gain mainstream acceptance. Context: climate change, urban smog, and energy insecurity. The 1990s and early 2000s were marked by heightened awareness of the dangers posed by global warming, driven by greenhouse gas emissions, particularly carbon dioxide from vehicles. Cities around the world were also struggling with worsening air pollution, prompting stricter emissions regulations. Simultaneously, oil dependency and fluctuating fuel prices reinforced the need for alternative, more sustainable mobility options. Key milestones and innovations. 1997, Toyota Prius launches in Japan. The Toyota Prius became the world's first mass-produced hybrid electric vehicle, HEV. Featuring a gasoline engine paired with an electric motor and a battery pack, it used regenerative braking and start-stop technology to optimize efficiency. By 2000, it had launched globally and set a new benchmark for eco-conscious driving. Its success proved that hybrids could be practical, reliable, and profitable. 2006, Tesla Roadster is unveiled. Tesla Motors, founded in 2003, introduced the Roadster, an all-electric sports car based on the Lotus Elise. It used lithium-ion batteries, the same type found in laptops, offering greater energy density and longer range than older battery chemistries. With a 0 to 60 mile/hour time of under 4 seconds and a range of over 200 miles, it shattered stereotypes that EVs were slow, boring, or limited in range. 2008, global financial crisis. The economic collapse placed massive stress on traditional automakers, particularly the Big Three in Detroit: GM, Ford, Chrysler. Bailouts and restructuring forced companies to cut costs and rethink their long-term strategies. This was a turning point. Survival now depended on innovation, especially in clean technology. Shift in thinking. This period marked a paradigm shift in how both consumers and manufacturers viewed alternative powertrains. Consumers began to see hybrids and increasingly EVs not just as environmental statements, but as smart choices with real economic benefits. Rising fuel prices in the 2000s made efficient vehicles more attractive. Governments and policy. offered tax credits and rebates to buyers of hybrid and electric vehicles, created low-emission zones, especially in Europe, giving further incentive to go green, funded R&D programs, and invested in charging infrastructure. Technology advancements. Battery improvements, especially lithium-ion, led to better energy density, longer range, and faster charging. Advancements in power electronics made hybrid and EV drivetrains more compact, efficient, and affordable. Plug-in hybrids PHEVs emerged, combining all-electric drive for short trips with gasoline for long-range flexibility. EEG, Chevy Volt, announced in 2007 and launched in 2010. Legacy and long-term impact. The Prius showed that hybrids could succeed globally and led to widespread hybridization of mainstream models. The Tesla Roadster laid the technological and cultural foundation for the company's later success and the modern EV boom. By the end of this period, EVs were no longer a fringe concept. They were poised to become central to the future of transportation. 2010 to 2020, electric vehicles go mainstream. This decade marked the electric renaissance. Electric vehicles were no longer quirky niche products. They were fast, sleek, and practical. Accelerators of EV growth, Tesla Model S 2012 and Model 3 2017 redefined consumer expectations for EVs. Chevrolet Bolt, Nissan Leaf, and others offered affordable electric options. China became the largest EV market, driven by government mandates and innovation. Tech advancements. Battery prices dropped approximately 89% from 2010 to 2020. Charging networks like Tesla Supercharger and Electrify America expanded rapidly. Autonomous driving technology began to integrate with EV platforms. 2020 to 2025. The EV era begins. Detailed analysis. The period from 2020 to 2025 is marked by the rapid acceleration of the electric vehicle EV revolution. With governments and automakers pivoting decisively toward electrification, we are witnessing a major shift from internal combustion engines ICE to fully electric powertrains. This transformation is not just about cars, it's reshaping the entire mobility ecosystem, from energy production to infrastructure to consumer behavior. Major trends driving the EV era. Governments lead with ambitious bans and mandates. Governments around the world are committing to phasing out gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles, aiming to cut emissions and accelerate the transition to cleaner transport. The United Kingdom has set a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030, making it one of the most ambitious national targets. The European Union has announced a ban by 2035, signaling that the internal combustion engine's days are numbered in Europe. California and other U.S. states have also pledged to transition to EVs over the next decade, leading the charge in America. Automakers pivoting to electric. Traditional automakers are responding to these new regulations and market demands by committing to all-electric lineups. Companies that were once synonymous with gasoline-powered vehicles are now placing EVs at the center of their future strategies. General Motors GM announced plans to go all-electric by 2035, with major investments in EV production, including the rollout of new electric models and a revamped electric vehicle platform. Volvo has committed to becoming fully electric by 2030, discontinuing the production of all internal combustion engine vehicles. Other giants like Ford, Volkswagen, and BMW have similarly made major investments in EVs and are focusing on electrifying their fleets to meet the demand for sustainable transportation. Electric vehicle infrastructure boom. A massive surge in investment is underway to build the charging infrastructure needed to support the rapid adoption of electric vehicles. This includes fast charging stations popping up along highways and urban centers, reducing range anxiety for consumers and encouraging longer trips in electric cars. Investment in smart grids to ensure that energy distribution is optimized, particularly during peak charging times. Home charging solutions becoming more affordable and widespread, allowing consumers to charge their EVs overnight. Partnerships between governments, automakers, and energy companies to ensure comprehensive coverage of charging networks. Making EV ownership as convenient as traditional gasoline cars. Software-defined vehicles. EVs are not just cars, They are becoming software-driven platforms that can evolve through over-the-air OTA updates. This transformation is critical for customizable driving modes, where drivers can adjust vehicle behavior, such as acceleration, handling, and even sound profiles via software. Seamless integration with smartphones, enabling features like remote control, real-time diagnostics, and advanced navigation systems. Advanced AI and machine learning algorithms, enabling adaptive driving features that learn and adjust to the driving style and preferences of the user. Autonomous driving technologies becoming more refined with continuous software improvements, pushing us closer to a future of self-driving vehicles. Green energy synergy, EVs meet renewables. The greening of the grid and battery technology are central to the broader environmental impact of the electric vehicle revolution. Electric vehicles powered by renewable energy. A growing number of EV owners are charging their cars using renewable energy sources like solar and wind. This synergy between EVs and green energy helps maximize the environmental benefits of electric mobility. Solar-powered home charging systems allow drivers to charge their EVs during the day using energy from the sun. Electric utilities are increasingly offering green energy plans where consumers can opt to have their charging powered by 100% renewable sources, aligning their driving with a commitment to sustainability. Vehicle-to-grid V2G technology. One of the most promising features of the electric vehicle era is vehicle-to-grid V2G technology. This system allows EVs to not only draw power from the grid, but also to feed electricity back into it when needed. During peak demand times, EVs can discharge power back into the grid, helping balance energy supply and demand. V2G also allows individual car owners to become energy contributors, transforming EVs into decentralized energy storage units. Governments and energy providers are exploring incentives to encourage V2G adoption, creating a more resilient, flexible grid. Summary takeaways. The EV revolution is no longer a distant vision. It is happening right now with governments, automakers, and consumers aligning to make electric mobility the norm. Investments in infrastructure, software, and renewable energy will make EVs easier to own, drive, and live with. The future of transportation is not just electric, but intelligent, integrated, and sustainable, where vehicles are part of the larger ecosystem of green energy and digital mobility. What comes next? Post-2025 outlook. Detailed perspective. The automotive industry stands at the cusp of its most radical transformation since its inception. As we look beyond 2025, converging trends in battery technology, artificial intelligence, and societal behavior suggest a future that is not just cleaner, but smarter, faster, and far more integrated into the digital fabric of modern life. Solid-state batteries, the EV game changer. Solid-state batteries are widely seen as the holy grail for next-gen electric vehicles. Unlike today's lithium-ion packs that use liquid electrolytes, solid-state cells use solid materials, offering several critical advantages. Faster charging, potential to fully recharge in under 10 minutes. Greater range, up to 30 to 50% more range due to higher energy density. Improved safety, lower risk of thermal runaway or fires. Longer lifespan, fewer degradation cycles, meaning batteries that can last much longer. Companies like Toyota, Samsung, and QuantumScape are aggressively developing prototypes, and by the late 2020s, limited production models may start to appear, possibly transforming the EV value proposition completely. Autonomous vehicles, the rise of self-driving tech. Fully autonomous electric vehicles, level 4 and 5 autonomy, are on the horizon, enabled by powerful AI systems, advanced sensor fusion LiDAR, radar, cameras, and over-the-air software updates. Urban mobility. Robo-taxis, autonomous shuttles, and delivery bots will likely dominate cities, reducing traffic and increasing access to mobility. Logistics. Self-driving trucks and drones may revolutionize supply chains by improving efficiency and operating 24/7. Personal ownership shift. Autonomy may push consumers away from car ownership and toward mobility as a service MaaS platforms. Companies like Waymo, Tesla, Cruise, and others are racing to prove commercial viability, with varying levels of autonomy already deployed in pilot zones. Shared and sustainable mobility, changing consumer habits. The own less, access more mindset is becoming more common, especially among younger generations and urban dwellers. Beyond roads, the future of intermodal travel. While still in the experimental or niche phase, emerging transport modes could reshape long-distance and aerial mobility in the next 10 to 20 years. Flying cars / EVT, OLs, electric vertical, takeoff and landing. Companies like Joby Aviation, Archer, and Lilium are developing air taxis for short urban hops. Think airport to downtown in minutes. Quiet, electric, and app-based, these vehicles aim to become sky-based Ubers, launching in the late 2020s or early 3030s in select cities. Conclusion: a century in motion. From 1905 to 2025, the development of the vehicle is not merely a story about the progression of technology. Rather, it is a story about the changing requirements, ideals, and aspirations of the human race. What was once a cumbersome machine has evolved into a contemporary, intelligent, and environmentally friendly form of transportation. Moreover, the electric car is not merely the most recent chapter. Rather, it has the potential to serve as the cornerstone of a fundamentally rethought future of transportation. Thanks for watching.